Our region's business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you. While we customarily examine our region's business within the context of the present tense, we invite you to step with us for a few minutes back to July of 1794, to a plantation in what will one day become the South Hills of Pittsburgh, where, beneath these eaves more than 200 years later, you'll find our region's business host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, we're on location at Woodville Plantation in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania. You may never have heard of Woodville, but odds are you've heard of the events that happened here in the summer of 1794, the Whiskey Rebellion. We thought this would be the perfect setting to focus on a few vices that our region just can't seem to shake. We'll find out that whiskey is still being distilled here in our region. We'll meet one of the co-founders of Wiggle Whiskey. Plus, Pittsburgh Brewing, the parent company of Iron City Beer. A new owner is breathing new life into its venerable brands. And we'll close with a chaser, hard cider. We'll meet the husband-wife team who co-founded Arsenal Cider House and Wine Cellar, which is as historically rich as the beverages they serve. But first, a little dollars and historical sense. Woodville provides the perspective. Back in 1794, America wasn't even 21 years old, not even drinking age. But she was short on cash. The young nation's Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, thought he had a great idea. Place a tax on the whiskey that farmers made from the excess grain that they raised. Well, the summers in the 1790s were every bit as hot here in our region as they are today. And as Rob Windhorst, president of the Woodville Plantation, explains, the farmers' tempers were every bit as hot as the summer weather.
The Whiskey Rebellion is really a protest that evolves into an all-out insurrection against the federal government in the late spring and early summer of 1794. It really comes to a head in July of 1794 when, following the distribution of writs for local farmers to appear in court for not having registered their stills, the local tax inspector of revenue, General John Neville, and the federal marshal, David Lennox, were fired upon as they tried to serve a writ on the estate of William Miller, which today is located out near South Park.
Pick your targets, boys! Hit the officers! Woo!
Tensions were already at the breaking point with the farmers, whose ire had been stirred by a man who used the pen name Tom the Tinker.
Huzzah for Tom the Tinker!
Tom the Tinker would take out ads in the local newspapers saying that if you register your stills, Tom the Tinker will visit you and repair your still, so to speak. Somehow, some way, your still would wind up being destroyed.
You won't take our whiskey!
In the exchange of gunfire, 2 insurgents were killed. In response, the farmers burned down Neville's house at Bower Hill, just over the hill from Woodville Plantation. They pushed a small cadre of 12 federal soldiers into retreat.
They're retreating! Woo!
Come on, boys, one last push, we've got them! To the front, march!
Huzzah for Tom the Tinker!
For Tom the Tinker!
The farmers' celebration over winning that victory was short-lived. After the battle, the American president and commander-in-chief, George Washington, who'd gotten most of his early military experience right here in our region, mustered 13,000 federal troops to respond. It's the first time in American history that an American president has ever led troops into battle. Hopelessly outnumbered, the farmers accepted the tax, and their leaders were taken into custody.
The Whiskey Rebellion really was a monumental historical event. It was the first test of the federal government and the federal government's authority to not only tax, but its sovereignty over its people. And it's my opinion that had the Whiskey Rebellion been successful and had the farmers been able to change or eliminate that tax based on violence, the federal government's sovereignty really would have been challenged to the point where probably it would have been incapable of governing.
So the U.S. survived the Whiskey Rebellion intact, and with the federal government significantly strengthened. And here, 200 years later, we still pay taxes on whiskey and every other alcoholic beverage for that matter. But the important thing is, the nation survived, and so did whiskey making. And when our region's business returned, we'll turn the page to the latest chapter in that storied history. We'll introduce you to Wiggle Whiskey, a self-proclaimed rebellious whiskey made from scratch right here in our region. Stay with us.